from South Carolina, Mr. Norman, is now recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Powell. Appreciate you coming in. I don't have to tell you the fact that so goes housing, so goes the economy. I'm from a state that, from South Carolina, we have people moving in, the population's increasing. And I can tell you housing, not just single-family housing, is in trouble. People are finishing what's in the pipeline. It's now affected multifamily apartments, the high rents that they did get with inflation. That's entirely caused, for the most part, by the policies of this administration with gas, buying it from other countries, with supply chain shortages. There's no reason to start a project when you can't get supplies. And that's what we're facing in the housing industry at all levels. So any increase in interest is just another dagger that's going to kill the housing industry, along with commercial projects that, again, the pipeline's filling up, but the pipeline, once it leaves, you're not going to have any. And I'm from a state that's with people moving in. One of the things that you hear, I think Mr. Davidson mentioned, was regulations. Banks are complaining about being overregulated and the costs associated with it. CRA, I know when Brainerd left, it's in a state of flux. Who's determining that, and when will you have some guidelines out?
That'll be done by the whole Board of Governors when we vote on it, and also by the OCC and the FDIC.
Will they have any input from those who are having to pay the price of implementing CRA? Like, get any input from banks that are having to navigate?
So I know that throughout the multi-year process, there's been a tremendous amount of interaction with banks, tremendous amount, and bank lobby groups and also consumer groups. And then, but yeah, there's been a ton of input, and working with the industry to try to achieve these statutory goals efficiently. I won't say it's perfect, but there's certainly been a lot of interaction.
So they're getting input prior to implementing the requirements for CRA or the guidelines for CRA.
Yes, I think I'm pretty sure there's been quite a bit of interaction with the industry in terms of what to do and how to do it.
Okay. Now, I think you've stated that you don't feel it's the Federal Reserve's policy to get into implementing climate change.
We're not, and we shouldn't be climate policymakers. We do have a small role, focused role to play, principally with the larger banks, to make sure they understand and can manage their climate risks in the long run.
Should it be mandated?
Should what be mandated?
Climate change policies be mandated by the Federal Reserve?
I think, again, climate change is something that's going to affect businesses and people and regions and states and whole countries, and I think that's got to be a job for elected people by and large. I think what we're going to affect is we just want to make sure that banks understand and can manage the risks that they're running, and these are principally longer-term risks.
What's concerning to those of us in the business community who have to borrow for banks, the Federal Reserve is conducting a pilot climate scenario analysis that's being mandated, not asked, it's being mandated for the six largest banks to participate in. That seems to me like a pretty good, when you have to do a scenario and mandate that they do this, is that not the Federal Reserve getting directly involved in mandating?
I think the banks actually want this. They want these six big banks, they have to face this globally, and what they want is uniform approaches and guidance on how to have one set of rules. They're already running, the big six banks that we're talking to, they're already running climate scenarios all the time, multiple climate scenarios.
Most of the banks are well capitalized now. That could change. And this is just another expense that is out there. On the CFPB, the history, I think you said it was 12%. It cannot go above 12% ratio. Has that, that does not seem logical to me. Has it ever been below the 12% from your perspective?
That's someone here quoted the law, and that rang a bell for me. So that is what the law says. Have they been below? I'd have to go back. I'm happy to provide. It's all. If you could,
because it seems to me like that's if you've got that cap, businesses couldn't operate like that. because it would be no incentive to reduce the price as long as it's automated.
That's
Thank you.
That's the way the law is set up.
Right. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.